should you take your creatine pre-workout or post-workout? In this video, we're going to answer this definitively with science. All right, let's go ahead and just jump right in on this. The question that's always asked, do I take my creatine pre-workout or post-workout? So if that is the question, we've defined what we want. We want to know, we're going to take this once a day, pre-workout, post-workout, what's better? Well, here's our study. The effects of pre versus post-workout supplementation of creatine monohydrate on body composition and strength. We can go through the background here. I will link to the studies so you can read this, for yourself. Now, the really good thing about this study is they use 19 healthy recreational male bodybuilders. That means they're not using beginners. That's very important, that they're not using beginners. The question that's often asked, especially by new people, when do I take this pre or post? And we're going to get into some other hairy situations here later on. But if that's the question, we've defined our terms, we know what best means, okay, we can see that on the pre-group, by the way, they had 5 grams of creatine a day. All right, so the pre-group consumed 5 grams of creatine immediately before exercise. On the other hand, the post-group consumed 5 grams immediately after exercise. There you go. Now, pretty much every creatine you buy is going to say take 1 scoop, which is usually 5 grams, post-workout. All right. So you can read on their training there. They trained on average 5 days per week. Very important. So these are not people who are training 30 minutes twice a week or 3 times a week, right? These are recreational male bodybuilders, recreational. So guys like me, guys like more than likely you, somebody who's actually training 4, 5, 6 days a week and not, just messing around at the gym, looking at people or whatever. So we can see by the results here what they were. We're not going to go into it in detail because you can look at it. The main thing you really want to look at is our conclusion. So our conclusion is creatine supplementation plus resistance exercise increases fat-free mass, which is basically lean mass, and strength. Based on the magnitude inference, it appears that consuming creatine immediately post-workout is superior to pre-workout vis-a-vis body composition and strength. So there you go. This video has been going for under 3 minutes, and I've already given you your answer. If your question is, what is better? Do I take it pre or post? Your answer is definitively, regardless of what somebody else is going to say, that we're going to go into in a minute, definitively, it's post. That's the answer. That's the answer. If you want my opinion, it's still post-workout, okay? So if you're going to ask, do I take this pre-workout? Do I take this post-workout? That's your question. Then you're going to take it post-workout. That is the best. Now, for some reason, you can't take it post, then of course, pre is better, all right? Now, we can go through this study more, the introduction, our methods, experimental design. We can see their actual workout that they did here. And food logged, exercise assignment, statistical analysis. And we can see our baselines, our post test, and our mean change. So we can see in our pre sup here, we can see our mean changes here. Now, this is where this part gets controversial. This part gets controversial to some people, which we're going to go into here in just a minute. And they're saying that once you dig into the study, you see that the changes aren't significant. They're not, these are not huge changes. I'll agree. These are not huge changes. However, that wasn't the question. The question that is asked is what is better? Whether better is 0.00001 or whether the difference is, 50%, 90%, 100%, whatever. That's still a difference. And that's the question. What's better? Not what's significantly better, but what is better, period. That's how science works. Okay. So you can see our baselines, our post tests, and our mean change between the pre and the pre and the post groups here. So 1 rep bench press, you can see the mean change for the pre was 6.6 plus or minus 8.2, and for the post was 7.7 plus or minus 6.2. So huge difference? Absolutely not. Would the pre group get up to that difference? Probably. Maybe it'd take another week or two. Just that's my opinion anyway. But again, that's not the question. The question is between pre or post, when should you take it? The answer is definitively, because we have a study, the answer is post. There's your answer. Now, if in 3 months, 3 weeks, 3 years, I say something different, that's because the information has changed. There's new studies. Okay, so that's the answer. That's really all I wanted to say. Now we're going to go into a few more things about uh, creatine overall here, and uh, some other studies about it that are kind of interesting. So let's go ahead and delve into it here. Again, I'll link the study so you can actually read it for yourself. Okay. All right. So let's go ahead and check out some other studies here and what other people have to say. We'll head over to bodybuilding.com. Good site overall. And to this article here, before, after, or whenever, the best time to take creatine. I'm going to spare you reading it to you. You can read this yourself, of course. So you can look at nutrient timing, where science meets wishful thinking. Nutrient timing as it was presented 10 years ago is pretty much BS. There may be some benefit to taking certain substances, nutrition around a workout, but at least in the past, a lot of times it was like you must, eat within 7 minutes of finishing your workout, or you missed your anabolic window, bro. And it's just not true. So you can read the before workout camp there. You take creatine, hopefully it increases more ATP, means more activation of muscle fibers, so on and whatnot. Sounds tempting. Okay. After a workout, the camp number 2 is of course your muscles are depleted of nutrients after a workout and thus primed for a big influx of nutrients, right? And then the camp 3 whenever you want. What he's saying is, what they meant by significant for this study, less than 5% chance what was observed, okay, or less than 5% chance what was observed was due to chance, meant significant for this, okay, meant significant for the study, okay, of one over the other. So they broke down the results on a case-by-case basis, and they saw a trend that suggested there may be a difference. And he's saying what we really think is that creatine after workout is better than before. Okay, but we really need to study more in order to prove that. Sure, absolutely. But we have a study, so we have to go by what the study says so far. And of course, a lot of studies, almost every study you see is going to be using creatine at about 5 grams and taking post-workout. That's what pretty much all of the studies about on creatine, the ones you see on your bottle of creatine whenever you buy it, you gain 20 pounds of muscle in 5 weeks or 6 weeks or 10 weeks. Those studies, most of them, almost all of them I can think of anyway, were based around about 5 grams of creatine post-workout. So take that for what it's worth. Okay, optimal dosing still appears to be 2 to 5 grams a day. We're going to get into that in just a minute. This video is not going to be terribly long, but I just want to tie all this in a pretty little bow so you can really see where I'm coming from here. So there was another study says take it before and after. Again, we're going to get into that in just a second. All right, so until something conclusive comes along, this guy's opinion, he'd vote for camp 3. Take it whenever, okay, or maybe more appropriately, take it whenever, take it when it works for you. Again, that's actually my opinion, is take it whenever it works for you, because you have to understand, if the question is take it pre-workout or post-workout, well, our study shows post-workout. The differences aren't huge. They're not mind-blowing. They're not life-changing, but they're differences. So we have to answer with the best correct answer we have. This is the best correct answer we have. So we have to say, according to the study, the best time is post. Now, if you can't take it post, obviously it's going to be better to take it pre. If for some reason your creatine is at some house that you're at the morning, and then you go to work out and you go to a different house and you can't take it, then obviously the best time for you to take it is pre-workout. There you go. Context matters so much. We also have to realize studies are scientifically controlled. Our lives aren't studies. Our lives aren't run in a in a ward somewhere at a college or a hospital or wherever they're going to study at, right? Even though a lot of these aren't run in that kind of way. I'm just saying, real life, you're going to work, if you got kids, you're picking up your kids, you're taking them here, you're taking them there, you're trying to work out whenever you can, all this stuff. And it all goes into play. And that's really all I'm saying here. All right, a little more. Again, you can read this yourself. Optimal dosing still appears to be between 2 and 5 grams a day. You can load for the first 5 to 7 days. You don't have to. You can. Doesn't really matter. Okay, there you go. That's that. Great. Let's go to another article here on bodybuilding.com. This is from Jim Stepini, PhD. All right, I have a few problems with what he suggests here. All right, again, he's referencing the same study I just did. Researchers gave recreational male bodybuilders, basically guys like you and me, either 5 grams of creatine monohydrate immediately before they worked out for 4 weeks, or 5 grams of creatine monohydrate immediately after they worked out. Now, again, you could critique this study all you want. You could say that, well, one thing, they only did it for 4 weeks. They did it for 4 weeks. Maybe if they did it for half a year, if they did it for 6 months, it would have come out in the wash. Maybe if they had people who were already on creatine for 6 months and then did the study. Maybe if they took the same people and they switched them around, and then retest it. All valid critiques. But again, the study we have, with all of the other information we know about creatine from all of the other studies, it's just not hard for me personally to conclude post-workout is just better. Okay. And again, the study backs that up. Again, better is very small, but better nonetheless. Okay. So again, you can read this for yourself. Between the two groups, lean mass, body fat, muscle strength, however, they were into some much weaker statistical correlations. There was evidence that taking creatine post-workout was more effective on lean muscle gains and muscle strength. All right, and then he goes into here, predictably, blah, 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 pseudoscientists, experts, right? So now his case is the case for pre and post. Now, my problem with this article is a lot of times people never ask, should I take creatine pre and post? And most people, well, I don't want to say most people, let's say a lot of people anyway, probably don't need to. They probably don't need to, because they're not going to be working out that much. I mean, taking 10 grams of creatine a day, I mean, how many studies show that there's a benefit to 10 grams versus 5? I don't know. But let me dig into this a little bit, then we're going to go through a few more studies, and we'll wrap this up, because I've really already given you your answer. It's post-workout. If you're going to take it pre or post, we know what better means. We've defined our terms of better. We know that post is better. In the real world, my opinion, doesn't really matter that much. Although there is some evidence that you should take it around the workout, somewhere around the workout. Okay. But so he's saying pre and post. Now, unfortunately, this is very important for this. Unfortunately, there has yet to be a study published that compares taking creatine both pre and post workout to taking it just pre-workout or just post-workout. So we agree on that. There has yet to be a study published that compares taking it both pre and post-workout versus pre-workout or post-workout. Okay, now to his conclusions, to what he's asserted. But the real world results I have seen in thousands of people, switching to creatine on both ends of the workout are significant. That's his personal experience. Okay, fine. Now, referencing a study here, a 2006 study done by Australian researchers. They're taking a protein, carbohydrate, and creatine shake immediately pre and post workout for 10 weeks, experienced an 80% greater increase in lean muscle mass and about a 30% greater. Again, don't get blown out of the water with these numbers. 80% greater. Well, what is 80%? Does it mean you're going to one group gained 1 pound, and the other gained all of this muscle, or all this strength? No, that's not what you have to realize. 80%, both groups made results. And again, I'll link you to this study as well. You can look at it. All right, the pre and post group also lost body fat, whereas the morning and night group didn't. So, this study was based, it was a pre and post group of protein, carbohydrate, and creatine. So one group would take it pre-workout and post-workout. The other group would take it right in the morning. Then they would have their breakfast. They would work out later. They would have their late night meal, supper, and then they would have their supplement again. So testing between those groups, pre and post, or morning and night, the pre and post group had all of these, benefits: 80% greater increase in lean muscle mass and 30% greater increase in muscle strength. Okay, and they had lost body fat too. Okay. Now, again, he goes in here. Most people would argue that because the subjects were taking a protein shake and fast digesting carbs, the results don't truly reveal how effective the creatine was. Yeah, that's going to be a problem. If we can't isolate what we're talking about, we're going to have a problem. All right. Now, he makes a point. Taking creatine alone is not half as effective as when you take it with protein and carbs. Again, I take issue with that. Where's the study showing it taken with protein and carbs versus something that's very rich in leucine? And we already know that leucine can stimulate sort of these insulin effect spike, whatever. Not necessarily to the same exact degree as taking it with a carbohydrate. We have studies showing that there's no benefit in, a crap load of carbs per se. And of course, we have to define what benefit means, but just for now, we'll just say benefit versus say just a protein shake. I mean, you can find a study to say almost whatever you want. All right. But that's another study you should be aware of. Should you take it pre and post? Sure. Give it a shot, man. Give it a shot. All right. But this is another point I want to make, is always realize your source. Okay. Always realize your source. So his advice to you, I like this part here. When you hear them say that, taking it post-workout is far superior to taking it pre-workout, when you hear them, you can have a laugh knowing that they didn't read the study in its entirety. Actually, we did. We even have it for you right here. You can go through the whole thing, all you want, all the references, all you want. So, you're just wrong. You're simply and utterly wrong. They don't know what they're talking about. Again, kind of do. And see, you're way ahead of them on this one. Again, that means nothing. Way ahead of them. How? Show me the study. You can't. We've already defined, and you've already said up here, it doesn't exist. Thank you. Thank you for proving my point. Okay. So if you use a creatine monohydrate or most other forms of creatine, then go with 5 grams both pre and post workout. Again, you have 0 references to say that other than your own personal experience, which I don't discount. I do not discount your personal experience. I'm not even saying you're wrong. I'm not saying he's wrong at all. I'm simply saying there's no study that has tested that versus just pre or just post. There's no study that has tested pre and post, especially at 5 grams. And furthermore, why go with 5 grams pre and post? Why not 2 grams pre, 3 grams post? I mean, the simple fact is a lot of us are already taking creatine pre and post. We are. We're taking it in, our pre-workouts, right? We're already taking it pre and post because we have it in our pre-workouts. We're having 2 or 3 grams pre-workout and in the pre-workout, and then we're having 5 grams after. So we're kind of already doing that in some aspects. Some of us are, right? I've taken a pre-workout with creatine in it, and I don't really notice that big of a difference or really any difference versus just taking creatine post-workout. That's my experience. I'll give it a shot though. I'll absolutely give it a shot taking 5 grams pre and 5 grams post. I have no problem doing that. Because like I said, I'm not saying he's wrong. I'm simply saying there's 0 evidence, scientific evidence that this is true. None. Okay. I know we're way off topic of what's best. The topic of this was what's the best time to take your creatine, pre or post. And in those terms, we already know it's post. Okay. So he's sort of changing the goalpost and not saying, should you take it pre or post? He's saying, no, you should take it pre and post, which wasn't the question. It wasn't the question. It wasn't what was studied. So again, that's my problem with this article personally. That wasn't the question. Now, if the question is, when is the best time to take creatine, period, and you're not stipulating pre or post, in that case, the answer would be, we're not quite sure. There are some studies that show pre and post is superior to morning and night, but there's nothing to suggest that taking 5 grams pre and post is somehow superior to just taking, what about 10 grams post? And we're going to get to something else a little interesting here in a minute. Why not take 1 gram in the morning, 1 gram in the afternoon, and if you train at night, then take 3 or 4 grams before working out and 3 or 4 grams after workout, and then another gram or 2, before you go to bed. Have you tested that? No, you haven't. Maybe that works. I don't know. Of course, we also have to consider reality on all of this as well. We're going to get to that in a minute. But again, consider the source. We have people here who are trying to sell you products. And for you to take double the amount of creatine of what is usually studied, which is about 5 grams a day, and what has already been shown to maintain creatine levels is 2 to 5 grams a day. People are selling you supplements. So obviously they're going to want you to take more of them and buy more of them. I'm not saying that's the case here. I'm not saying there's an ulterior motive. I'm saying consider it. That's all. Consider it. I'm not selling you shit. I'm not selling you a damn thing. All right. Just consider it. Again, I'm not saying there's an ulterior motive. I'm not saying this isn't true. I'm not even saying it's not even true. I'm simply saying there's zero evidence. Okay. And like I said, I'll give it a shot. I'll do 5 grams pre and post, and I'll give it a long time. Okay. A long time, and say, do I notice a difference? I'll check it out. I don't have a problem with that. Okay. So again, I just want, because I'm sure this article will come up when people saying, hey, when should I take creatine? And say, oh no, you take it pre and post. You can, again, nothing wrong with you trying it, but again, zero evidence for that. Zero. It's just an opinion. It's an opinion, and it's what's been observed by one person. So, there's that. So I just wanted to mention that as well. And honestly, I think you should try it. I think you should try taking it pre and post. Give it a shot. It is cheap. Creatine is overall pretty cheap. But I mean, I probably wouldn't tell you 5 grams pre and post. I'd probably start with 3 pre and then 3 post. That's probably going to be enough for you. If you're not working out 2 hours a day, most people who are working out 45 minutes a day and they're working out 3 or 4 days a week, you're just probably not going to need, that much creatine. You're just probably not. All right, so let's move on here. On to examine.com. They base this off a lot of different studies, around 700 studies on creatine. And they say, when should I take creatine? Their opinion, as creatine is stored in the body, you can take it anytime. Okay, while some personal trainers recommend taking it after a workout, this has no difference in uptake. However, in our study, we saw a slight difference in results. Okay, so again, you have to consider that. I'm going by the study that says post is better than pre. If that's the question, we've defined pre or post. We know that post is better. End of story. Okay, let me go back here. And you can come to this page here. About 2 to 5 grams a day, again, is about what you need to keep your creatine levels, maximized. So get some creatine, take 5 grams a day, you're good to go. Doesn't matter when you take it. Again, according to them, pretty much no side effects. Creatine monohydrate is good enough. So on and so forth. Again, you can come to this page and go through all this stuff. Is creatine safe? Does it counteract caffeine? Counteract it? Does creatine cause baldness? Do I need to load creatine? So on and so forth. You can go here. So take 5 grams a day. You can cycle off if you want. You don't have to. Okay, smaller amount. Okay, so no need to load. Many studies use either a straight dose of 5 to 10 daily, or even smaller amounts, 2 to 3 grams. Okay. Also note benefits. These studies also note benefit with creatine supplementation. So even smaller amounts of 2 to 3. Right. Let's go to this study here. Here we have creatine supplementation, a comparison of loading and maintenance protocols on creatine uptake by human skeletal muscle. You can read through this here if you want. So a 5-day loading, creatine loading program, 20 grams once a day, or times day, yeah. 18 physically active males, 3 groups. All right. All we need to know is about down here. Total creatine concentrations can be maintained. Okay, this is the important part. Elevated muscle TCR, which is, I believe, the total creatine accumulation, right? Concentrations can be maintained by ingestion of small daily creatine doses, 2 to 5 grams. 2 to 5 grams. Now they say for a period of 6 weeks. You obviously don't have to cycle off of it, okay? But they can be maintained once you have maximized them. And again, you don't have to load creatine. You don't have to. You can. You'll still reach your peak load eventually anyway, and that's usually the way I would suggest, to just take 5 grams a day, and you'll reach your load a little bit later, but you're not taking a crap load of creatine in, which can be hard for some people. So again, elevated muscle concentration can be maintained by the ingestion of small daily creatine doses of 2 to 5 grams. So again, that kind of goes to that. Do you really need 5 grams before and 5 grams after if we're already maintaining our creatine load with 2 to 5 grams a day? Again, I'm not saying that's not true. I just want you to consider all of the evidence. Next study. So the next thing to consider, the effect of 7 days of creatine supplementation on 24-hour urinary creatine excretion. We're not going to go through all of this. We're just going to say in 24 hours, 46% of ingested creatine was excreted. 46% in 24 hours. All right. So if we come down here, we can see, here's their supplementing with doses. between 6 and 8 grams at a time. Okay, approximately half of the ingested creatine gets excreted. All right, next thing, 4 times 5 grams a day or 20 times 1 grams a day, uh, which is a lot of small doses of creatine monohydrate for 5 days. Okay, now if we look at this study, now we just looked at the effects of 7 days of 6 to 8 grams at a time, and knowing that we're going to excrete about half of that. If we look at this study, we can see that less creatine was excreted following the 20 times 1 gram a day, which is 49.25 plus or minus 10, than the 4 or 5 gram servings a day, which was 62.32 plus or minus 9. All right, so and then that conclusion is the lower excretion of creatine using the 20 times 1 gram day dose suggests a greater retention in the body and most probably in the muscle. Okay, lower and more frequent doses of creatine monohydrate, right? So this study is saying maybe lower doses more times through the day would actually be better. Okay, so all I'm doing is trying to tie a bow around all of this stuff. So to say, when should I take creatine? Pre-workout or post-workout? Well, this study absolutely says post-workout. It absolutely does. So if that's your question, that's your answer. You want to know what's better in that situation, post-workout. Huge difference? Absolutely not. Now you want to know, well, maybe I should just take it twice a day. That's what this person here is suggesting. This PhD is saying, well, go ahead and take it twice a day. Again, there's 0 studies saying you should do that. None. Again, not saying it doesn't work. I do a lot of things that go against scientific recommendation and they work for me. I'm not saying it's wrong. Absolutely not saying that at all. In fact, I've already said, you should try this. You should give it a shot. Give it a shot. Doesn't matter to me. Give it a shot. All right. But just keep in mind all of these other things that we've studied now, that we know now, that if we ingest a large amount of creatine, say twice a day, then we're going to excrete half of that, right? And that we're going to excrete, maybe a little bit less if we take in less. So, these people here in this study, 5 grams, 4 times a day, they're excreting 62.32 plus or minus 9. So how much are we excreting if we do it, twice a day versus what if we just did it once a day? You see what I'm saying? Like maybe we're going to, taking it pre and post, maybe we're actually going to end up excreting more. And maybe, if our muscles are already full of creatine, does that make any difference at all? There's no study to say yes or no. So I'm just saying, consider the source, consider the entire issue. Don't just say, here we go. This person is telling me this. And don't even listen to me. I'm going to link to every study. You can figure it out yourself. That's what I do. I figure it out for myself. I actually look at the studies, not what just someone says or they think or they've observed. What does the study say and how does it work for me, right? But still, we have to go by what the study says. And again, the study says whenever people ask, should I take it pre or post, then you should definitely take it post. Absolutely. That is the conclusion of the study. All right, so we're about done here. We looked at the excretion of creatine. If the question is, when is the best time, absolute best time to take creatine, you can only give the best answer you have. The best answer we really have is going to be post-workout. We have to think about reality also. And for most people, that's going to be once a day post-workout. Yeah, it just is. Can some people benefit from more? We can look over here on examine.com, which is it's a good site to check out your supplements. And even they suggest maybe some people can benefit from higher doses up to 10 grams a day may be beneficial for people with a high amount of muscle mass and high activity levels. We don't know. Okay. But most people are taking about 5 grams a day, 2 to 5 grams a day. Again, I'm not saying 10 grams a day won't necessarily help. I'm just saying more than likely, you're taking one large dose of 10 grams, you're probably going to excrete a lot of it. Whereas you probably would be better taking 2 5 grams doses. Maybe take it down to 3 grams 3 times a day. That's going to give you 9 grams. So just take 3 grams when you wake up, or there's 3 grams in the morning, 3 grams in the evening, 3 grams at night. And, you'll be working out sometime around there. So it's going to be around the workout anyway. that's really all we have. That's really all we have to study here. I will link to all this stuff. You can look over it yourself. Effects of supplement timing and resistance exercise on skeletal muscle hypertrophy, which is the study that's being referenced on Ask the Supplement Guru. This is the exact study, so you can read it for yourself. What you can take away from this study is maybe there is something to supplement timing. That's really the most you can take away from this, and it can also give you an idea of maybe creatine pre and post, maybe perhaps it could be better than just post. Maybe. Again, there's no study showing it, but it's showing that in this study, compared in this context versus morning and night or pre and post, that pre and post is better. So that's all I'm saying. We've gone over a lot of studies here. Again, I'll link absolutely everyone so you can read it yourself. But for the answer that I already gave when we were just 2 minutes in or so, whenever you ask, should I take creatine pre-workout? Should I take it post-workout? If that is your question, and you're going to take it once a day, which most of you will, and that's probably based on every other study that we know, that's probably going to be enough for you. Okay. Should I take it pre-workout? Should I take it post-workout? The answer is post-workout. We have a study backing that up. A lot of other studies sort of assumed that from the get-go, and that's how they're tested, is post-workout. Okay, so you can come to your own conclusions, but if somebody asks you what is the best time to take creatine, pre or post, your answer will now be post. You have a study. This is how science works. Like I said, if I change my mind, if I say something different in 3 weeks or 3 years from now, that's because the science has changed.